And now we'd like to
All
welcome on
right.
our very special guest, video coordinator of the Washington Mystics. Wow, Caleb West. What's going on, Caleb?
What's going on? Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course, excited to have you
Well,
here. Special shout out to Big D and your dad for getting us all together here and making it possible. You
Yeah.
want?
The Honorable Mr. Jeff West.
I wasn't sure if his daddy wanted to be part of the podcast, but now he is. Great job. Like, not even asking. They just outed his dad's full name, doxing. Big D
Couldn't
doesn't
go
have
without
any
saying.
consideration. Um, but no, I mean it's a great time to have you here because one, WNBA season's right around the corner. You guys are prepping for draft and whatnot as the tournaments are going on, and two, as I just mentioned, drafts are going on. I mean the tournaments are going on. So what a time to have you on. We're going to talk a little bit girls basketball, men's basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball. I always do that. Women's basketball, men's basketball, and then of course a little bit about your history. So hope you're ready for the ride.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Let's get started with I guess the fact that I guess kind of detail us or give us some background on you and how you got to where you were when you were with Georgia before making the jump to the Mystics, but now you're in the WNBA. That's super cool, by the way.
Yep. So yeah, I went to school at University of Georgia. I played high school basketball, so obviously I had a love for basketball growing up. But then when I was in school, I was like, I'd love to be involved with the team or be a manager of some sort. And so I think I joined in spring semester at UGA, and so right away I was trying to get on with the men's team, but like they had nothing available because obviously, basketball's in full swing at that point. But then I met somebody and was like, hey, like we need a practice player for the women's team. So from that message, I like it was like, yeah, why not? I'll go. I like to do it. And after that, I stuck around and was like a team manager with the women's team at Georgia. And it was really cool because like, you're part of a team that's like, bigger than you, it's like you're part of the school, the team, everything. And the coaching staff did a really good job of like making us involved and, making us feel like we're part of it. Like you get to travel and do different stuff that's fun as well, but just more importantly, just to like feel like you're a part of something bigger than just the sport itself, I guess.
Yeah, that is cool. Now,
And
go ahead.
oh, and then I was just gonna say from there, I kind of just stuck with it. So I was a team manager and then worked with a team for 2 years. And then after that, I was a grad assistant for 2 years. And when I was a grad assistant, our coach at the time, Joni Taylor, she also did USA basketball with
Mhm.
obviously the women's Olympic team. And Coach Tebow, who was also the Mystics head coach at the time, were both assistant coaches. And so it's kind of a thing of timing, but Coach Tebow was looking for like a summer intern. I guess this was like 3 or 4 years ago now at this time. And so yeah, after he reached out and like it worked out, I came up to DC for the summer and was kind of doing back and forth WNBA to Georgia for a few years after that.
That's pretty cool. Now, so you were doing what, like analytics coordinator work for the Mystics and still doing practice player things with your Georgia women's team?
Yep. So eventually it went from manager to, I was in grad school. And so now when I'm in grad school, I'm a little more involved. I mean, you're still kind of a manager, but, I was doing a little more video work. And so I was clipping up practices and clipping up games and, same stuff, but just a little more involved. And then, yeah, same with the Mystics. I was a video assistant at the time then. And yeah, just clipping up practices, helping out with practices. A lot of different stuff. And, it's still somewhat similar now, but transitioned to a little more stuff. So that's been good as well.
Now,
Caleb, when you clip up practices, because as a former high school coach, I used to sit there and pour through video, and I would have loved somebody to put segments together. But are you given a certain direction around what to look for, or you just kind of look for trends on your own?
Yeah, so I would say the main thing was we like to clip up all the drills. So mostly this is just for the coaches to watch back, but
Hmm.
if we run 6 drills that day and then we finish with like some scrimmaging, I'll just clip up the 6 drills. So like if they want to go watch it back, it's just quick and easy. Like, hey, here's this drill, here's this drill. And then the live play, I'll usually clip up offense, defense. And so like if they want to just watch our offense, or if they want to just watch, the gray team every time they're on defense, it's just ready and available for that. This year, I think we're going to keep more stats with our practices. So we have a couple different code windows that like basically just has all of our players, and then you can kind of, get the stat information from the film as well. So
Very cool.
That's cool. So when you were going back a little bit, when you were a college practice player, right? Because those that's pretty huge. More so, I think it's getting more attention recently. The good women's programs have men practicing with them. Um, if you guys won anything, would you have gotten a ring? I know Dawn Staley like gave rings to her practice player guys. I know that might be a sore subject, South Carolina, Georgia, but like I gotta ask, it's just one of those things. So
honestly, I'm a big Don Staley fan, so I'll allow it. But yeah, honestly, at Georgia, they did a really good job of just making us involved. So, you know, I was on the practice team as well, but like, I traveled with the team some, and like we get gear, we get, different benefits to just work with the team,
yeah,
that you wouldn't get otherwise. So it was pretty cool.
cool. And obviously, you said
That's
you
something.
grew up playing high school ball, and you're a big basketball fan. Were you there when Ant Edwards was there?
I think I was in grad school that year.
Okay.
I remember the day he committed, and I was just so pumped.
Yeah.
Like, Georgia basketball's back, baby.
I mean, that must have been an electric having, obviously, SEC women's basketball across the board is really good. And then, of course, Georgia men's not known for their basketball, obviously, football school, right? Not to, pigeonhole your alma mater, sorry. But, like, football school. And then you have Ant Edwards come in there. And, man, what he did in his 1 year at Georgia was absolutely phenomenal. Like, just it lit the league on fire. I mean, he ended up, what, was he the number one pick that year, too? Right.
Yep.
He was. So like to go from, taking a again traditionally non-basketball school to, into the tournament, a lot of hype around them, and then earning yourself a number one pick. That must have been a fun time to be there. Not to shortchange the women's side of the game. I'm just trying to encapsulate all your college career.
Yeah, no, definitely been a big Georgia basketball fan since I was like a young kid.
Yeah.
So see them this year, it was definitely awesome with Anthony Edwards there, and there was so much hype, and Tom Crean did a great job recruiting, and like we had some good players there, but the teams never necessarily put it together, and so it's
Mhm.
it's cool this year to see Mike White like
Yep.
taking them to the next step. Like I think they're projected like a 9 or 10 seed in the tournament, so to see that has been pretty cool this year, especially.
Yeah, on the bubble as we enter Selection Sunday. So this will come
Not
out
where you want to
Monday.
be.
Yeah, not where you want to be at all, but they should get in SEC. I think personally, I told you on the phone that I'm an ACC guy, so like I think the SEC is a little biased this year, but I agree that they should probably get in. They did have a solid February. Obviously, they're not competing for the SEC championship. We're recording before, just so everybody knows, this comes out Monday. We're recording before the bracket gets released and before the SEC tournament gets decided. Obviously, the one thing we do know is who's playing in it, and that's Florida and Tennessee. So that should be a good one. Again, unfortunately, you're a Georgia guy, so you don't like either of those schools. Actually, that might be the worst pairing for you in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, no, and it's tough because like Georgia had a great year, and then all of our biggest rivals, you got Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, all of those schools are just on fire right now with basketball. But yeah, I mean, I think the SEC is definitely a little biased just because it's college basketball, like anything can happen in the tournament. But I do think they're a good conference this year, and it's been cool to see still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it intentional that you left Auburn out of that picture?
Yeah, I didn't want to mention Auburn, but they didn't. They took a loss today, so I'll leave them out of the picture.
There
Well,
you go.
well, since we're here, let's talk about men's tournament a little bit. Auburn losing to Tennessee doesn't make the conference tournament finals. They are 1-3 to end the regular season. They're 2-4 in their last 6 games. You think Auburn still deserves to be a number one seed, let alone the number one overall seed? after, the end of February, beginning of March, I know a lot of people are saying, 16 quad one wins, one of the best teams in modern history, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's how you finish the season, and they have not looked good.
Yeah, I think it's tough. Like they had a really good non-conference schedule as well. So it's like you want to credit them for beating good teams early on. I think they won the Atlantis tournament or one of the tournaments over Thanksgiving. And then yeah, like the SEC is obviously loaded. I think what the SEC really is just like those middle teams, like even like Missouri and Oklahoma and Kentucky, like those teams are very good. So it's like, yeah, they're top heavy, but I do think it's a pretty deep conference.
Mhm.
So I think they are pretty battle tested. But yeah, the quad one is also a little, it's tough when every single conference game is going to be a quad one game. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's hard to compare.
Yeah, and it's hard for the rest of the league because, all the money goes to the SEC for football, but whatever, it's okay.
Hey, Duke's doing all right. So
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I mean, we're recording this before the ACC finals too, because obviously I'm going to sit down and probably yell at my TV about it. But like, if they win the ACC tournament without Cooper Flag, I think without a doubt, the fact that they beat Auburn, the fact that, yeah, I know you can argue the fact that the ACC is weak this year, but they have 8 quad one wins. I think they'll have another one if they beat Louisville today. I think Louisville qualifies for a quad one game. Um, but like, so they'll have 8 to 9 quad one wins. They beat Auburn earlier in the year, and they're an ACC tournament champion. Like, I feel like it's tough not to have them number one overall, especially since they did, the latter without Cooper Flag, and they'll have Cooper Flag for the tournament. So I don't know. I just don't understand how you could put Auburn above them. And look, I'm not saying you are, but Joe Lunardi still is to this point. A lot of people still are. Friend of the podcast, Ryan Hammer, who I love, by the way. His content is phenomenal. He does. I don't know if you see his stuff on social media. He's fantastic. He does the Trapezoid of Excellence, among other things. But he even said, I was talking to him today, and he even said that Auburn should still be the number one overall seed. I'm like, over Duke? Like, and yes, I'm extremely biased. Got the Duke shirt on, but I'm like, come on, like really? So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't think Auburn should be number one overall either. I mean, just as much as it is, you can play to get in at the end of the season, win your conference championship, et cetera. I think it's also important from a potential number one seed. What have you done lately? And 1-3 at the end of their season and not advancing to the SEC finals, I think should drop them to a two.
yeah,
Myself.
it seems like the recency bias can come and help you at times, but it also should hurt you, like you said, if you're 1-3 in your last four games. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good. Well, we've spent a lot of time. Well, we're about to spend a lot of time on the women's game because that's where you are. But before we get off the men's game, I have one last question. Big D, do you have any on the men's game before I ask my last question?
No, more of a transitional type question, but ask yours first.
So I'm gonna ask mine because it's pretty simple. Again, I know you're an SEC guy. Try to table that for now. But if you had to pick a winner for the men's bracket. In fact, I'm going to invite you to do a men's bracket for OCB because we're gonna get a few co-hosts, guest co-hosts, and guests to fill them out, and we'll put them on social media if you're okay with that. But which you're now invited. But without picking through, seeing all the matchups, if you had to pick your favorite heading into the tournament, who would that be?
I feel like I just can't say Duke because somebody's already going to be saying that. So, but I do like
Ruined it for
Duke a
you.
lot. I like Dyer.
Yeah.
I like the way they're playing a lot, but I don't know. It's why we love March is because it's literally anyone can win it. I think obviously the SEC teams we mentioned, the Big East has a few as well. Like I think Marquette, St. John's, like some of those teams can win it as well. I don't know. I'm probably leaving a few off. If I had to bet, I might like Florida to come out
I see.
on top. I just feel like they have the size, they have the shooting, um, and I think they have the depth
Yeah.
go all the way.
SEC
That
guy.
depth is going to be a very important
SEC guy.
attribute.
Should have known. Go ahead, Big D. Ask your question.
Well, no, I'll skip it. We'll just stay in college because it kind of went backwards a little bit. But I think that you bring up a great point, Caleb, in the depth of Florida, because the one thing that Nick and I have talked about a few times on the podcast is the depth of Duke and how they've been able to integrate a lot of different players deeper than normal, and to lose somebody like Cooper Flagg or play without him because of foul trouble a few games ago and still have success is pretty impressive. So I think Florida has that same attribute for sure.
Yeah, and just to see their like overall buy-in has been pretty cool because like last night, like you mentioned, without Coop, they had, that first half, their defensive intensity and just diving on the floor and just playing so aggressive and so hard. Obviously, it ended up being a close game and they were able to, still get it. But I like Duke a lot too. I just think they're bought in and have a lot of good players as well.
Yeah, very true. Speaking of Duke men's, Duke women locked up the ACC. They've punched their. I mean, at this point, every women's team has punched their ticket to the tournament. Um, Obviously, you have some of your classic favorites are in there, right? Your South Carolinas, your UConns. My early season pick was USC to win it all. Is there a team that you've seen throughout the year, and I'm sure you've seen it a lot because of your position with the Wizards? I'm sorry, Mystics. Is there a team that you've seen that like stands head and shoulders above the rest heading into the tournament, or do you feel that as open field as there has been in a while for the women's game?
I think it is a lot more open this year than it usually is. I mean, usually, like you said, you have the UConn, the South Carolinas, and it's like one of those two will win it. Whereas this year, I think there's probably, six, seven, maybe eight teams that could win it this year.
Mhm.
One team I like a lot that I've obviously been watching because I think they have a few pro players is Notre Dame.
Mm.
I think they have 3 to 4 players that could play in the WNBA. And so, um, I think if you have that much talent, like they obviously have to figure out some other stuff, but I think if you have that much talent and they have good shooting, I think they should be a good team for the tournament.
Is one of those players Hannah Hidalgo at all? New Jersey native? Just asking for a friend.
She will be down the road eventually. Yeah. She's not draft eligible this year, but
Right.
she will be eventually.
Caleb, do you look at video of the women's college game and uh, make clips or anything like that to show to the coaching staff? Is that something you do as well?
Yep. So in the past, like I said, I was working with Georgia and then working with Mystics, and this has been the first year where I've been full time with the Mystics. So in the off season, I'm also working with them, and so this summer or this winter, I should say, I have been doing a lot more of that. So we have a whole scouting department. That's still relatively small compared to like what you have on the NBA or on the Wizards side. But we have been, yes, pulling clips, looking for, specific stuff like how well can they switch on defense or, how well do they move laterally, like,
Yeah.
just different stuff to break down and analyze over the players, we're looking at.
I'm gonna help you with your job right now, Caleb. Video of a player in college that you need to pull and hold on to for because she's not draft eligible yet, but she's gonna be a hell of a player, and you already know the name. But friend of the podcast, Zoe Brooks, phenomenal player, and I just
Oh,
the eye test to me shows more than and her stats are good, but the eye test to me and seeing her play even in high school to where she is now, one of the things that I always amaze me about her is her body control through contact, the way she sees the court. I mean, and her defense is only skyrocketed. So I'm going to help you out here. Definitely, like store as much film as you can on her.
Yeah, and I didn't mention NC State, but I think they have a really talented team as well, and they're very well coached. So I could see them, making a good run as well, which I think they did last year also. So
yep.
Yeah, I think Zoe might be still a little mad at me because before the season started, when she came on the podcast, we were talking about her and going to the tournament again this year, and when it came time for ACC tournament, I did say like, hey, like I'll be rooting for you up until the finals when you play Duke, and that's exactly what happened, and Duke ended up winning. So
right.
I'm not gonna say I predicted it, but sorry, Zoe, I'll say it now. I'll say sorry to Zoe, but yeah, I guess there's probably only so much you can slash want to answer because obviously you don't want to show any bias for any particular player or team for the women's game, and that's understandable. And feel free to say whatever you want on it, whatever you can. But is there a particular player that outside of the Notre Dame girls that you mentioned that has kind of caught your eye that you can see making waves in the tournament that we just don't know of yet?
I wouldn't say that we don't know of yet, but I would say like the type of players we're looking for is just players that, have a high IQ or just are smart players. Obviously, you want, players with size and that can shoot and a lot of different things, but having that IQ seems to make an easier transition into the WNBA.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say we're targeting that, but there's a lot of players that could still fit that category as well. So
How much does
one player
tournament
specifically is overseas that plays in um, London and Lyon is what team it is.
Mm.
But her name is Malunga, and I think down the road she could be a big time player in the WNBA as well.
nice. So how much does the tournament play into your evaluation of players for that next level? Or is it, I mean, again, committee question, right? Committee's like, oh, we look at the whole season body of work. Do you look at all like do you weigh the whole body of work at the same, or do you see like, hey, tournament's high stress time? WNBA could be high stress time, travel, more intense games. Like, do you weigh tournament play a little bit heavier than you do the rest of the season?
I would say maybe a little bit basketball wise, where we want to see them in the big moment, like step up and play well. But more than that, I would say like mentally, we want to see like how are they in timeouts? Like, this is a big game. Are they doing a good job leading? Are they, a good teammate? Do they have their head up? So I would say a little bit basketball wise, but you can have an off shooting night and you can't be judged from that just alone. So I would say more than anything, just watching, how are they acting as a player, as a teammate, and mentally and not necessarily basketball wise as much.
No.
I think that's great that you look that way because I mean you can't have an off shooting night, but watching the mental aspects and how they look for other ways to contribute, can tell a lot about a person. So it's great that you're not just looking at the stat sheet or the scoring.
Yeah, I agree.
How much does a game like UCLA versus USC play in your mind the other day for the women's game, the Big Ten championship? Um, which I don't know if you noticed. Sidetrack real quick because I forgot to talk about it the other day. But I don't know if you've seen this. A lot of coaches complaining about like with the expansion, the SEC and Big Ten expansions, like teams out west having to travel and whatnot. I see that so much on the men's side. Women's side don't see anything at all. USC and UCLA just played in the Big Ten championship. Didn't complain once about the level of travel they had this year. But men's are just like, oh no, what's his name from UCLA? Why, Mick Cronin, right? That's who's there. He's like, oh, we've had such a long travel, like going to Rutgers and then coming back home. It's like, come on, really? WNBA schedule, get ready for it, right? Like, is there our NBA schedule for men's? Like, there's got to be something, some evaluation to see how players play like that as well, right? Or am I off base here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's interesting because, like, you're balancing a little more.
Hmm.
You got college classes and you got different stuff. So I do think it's crazy. We're 30 minutes down the road from Maryland. So when UCLA and USC came here, I got to go watch them play in person. And
Hmm.
like the whole time, I'm just thinking it's so crazy that they flew all the way here, and then usually they'll play. Um, Games are Thursday, Sunday, so usually they'll stay for one more game, so you don't just have a wasted trip, but they'll do two games and then go back. And I do think it definitely adds an element. But like you mentioned, those two teams are also just very talented and completely loaded. So they're still able to, withstand that. And I think both teams will make a pretty good run as well.
Yeah. So do a better job recruiting McCronin. But but I ask you about that game because you just mentioned like the mental aspect of the players, right? Like how big of it in your mind was seeing a player like Juju Watkins, who already is like a stud, right? Like everybody knows that she's gonna be a star when she goes to WNBA, whenever that is, or at least has that potential. I shouldn't say. I don't want to, crown her before she gets there, but like tough shooting night for her. Absolutely smothered by UCLA's game plan and defense, and then she almost makes a game out of it with the in the waning minutes of the game where she makes a bucket, gets a steal, gets to the bucket again, and I got it to a one possession game. Is that accurate? We were watching the game
Yeah.
together. Yeah, like how much does something like that play? Not just for her, but for players like that. You combine the mental with the skill now.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like we obviously know Juju is incredibly talented. She'll probably be a top 1, 2 pick in the next few years whenever she's eligible to come out. But those are the factors that make her go one versus going two or three is, seeing her work ethic, seeing like how much she wants it, how much she cares in a big game like that. And then lastly, just like seeing how coachable she is, like how is she responding to her coach, like communicating with her in a timeout or different moments. And I think she did a good job of that in the tournament for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned when she comes out. As you were saying that, I was just thinking the possibility. I'm not entirely sure this is accurate, but we may see a draft class as loaded as last year's was touted. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. This year you have Paige Beckers coming out, but Juju Watkins' draft class might be her, Kiki Rice, Hannah Hidalgo, Zoe Brooks. Like I think all those girls come out around the same time. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah, there's
crazy
a few
world.
others too, like South Carolina has a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, that 2027 class is supposed to be loaded for sure.
Ajay Johnson in that draft too.
She will probably be 2026,
Okay.
but I mean, it is a little tough in the WNBA because a lot of that is, you can't come out until you've played 4 years, right? But with NIL now being a factor, and if players have the option to play 5 years, and you're making that much money in college, like some of them definitely have to consider whether it makes more sense to stay. So it's a little bit harder on us to predict who actually will come out, but at the same time, I don't blame them. You got to do what's best for yourself. So.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll spare you from commenting on any holdout comments or whatever. So even though you just brought up a perfect segue to ask you, we won't put that evil on you, Caleb. Don't worry about it.
Caleb, I will ask you though about last year. Nicholas and I had a lot of fun on the podcast being fans, watching Caitlin Clark and her evolution through the entire year, chasing the scoring record, the all-time scoring record, men and women's, and just the electricity she added to women's basketball. And then coming into the Fever, you were in the building. You were at part of the enterprise of which she went into. I'm just kind of curious what that was like for you, and what was the buzz around the WNBA watching her play.
Yeah, it
Before
was
you answer real
awesome for
quick.
sure.
Oh, sorry, you're going. I was
Go
gonna say
ahead. No, you're
before
good.
you answer, try to sugarcoat it. This guy is clearly obsessed with Caitlin Clark, so like it's okay. Like you don't like try to sugarcoat it from.
No, I mean, I think it's awesome because what she's done more than anything is just bring so many different spectators to the game, and like that's really what you want out of it. So, and seeing her in person, like you mentioned, it was awesome. Like I think in our first home game here, she had 6 threes, and
Yeah.
like a couple of them were just like sprinting off a screen, catch, shoot right away. And yeah, I mean, and you can't not watch that and think that's enjoyable to watch. I also got the chance to see her play at Iowa when we were at Georgia. We played them in the NCAA tournament. I think they were a 2 seed and we were a 7 seed. But seeing like their fans just erupt whenever she makes a shot, it's
Yeah.
just awesome every time. And then same in Indiana this year. I think what was it, like 2 hours before the game, fans were able to come in, and like immediately you could tell when that was because the places just starts filling up. Whereas like other games, it's like not getting closer to full until closer to the game. But no, it was definitely cool.
Yeah, she's a stone cold killer, number one. But the other thing, I think the Mystics have already scheduled the Indiana game at Baltimore, right? A larger arena, just in anticipation, which is an impact she's definitely had.
Yep,
Baltimore?
yep, and that would have been at Capital One Arena, which is where it was last year. But I think they're doing some sort of renovations. But yeah, like you mentioned, just to have a bigger arena and add more people to watch, which is just it's good for the league and nonetheless. So I think it's cool.
What's in
Yeah.
Baltimore that they're using?
I,
I'm not even sure. I just saw Baltimore, but I didn't even think about it in terms of basketball. Caleb, you know?
I don't know what the arena is called, but I know it holds about like 15,000, whereas our arena is closer to 5,000, and so that was the reason behind the decision.
Because I was just thinking about even in your own facility, like the Go-Go play in, is it Virginia, right? The Capital City Go-Go?
We play in the same facility as the Go Go.
Right. Right. So like I'm trying to think. Sorry. So you guys play there in Virginia, right? That's Virginia.
It's in DC. It's in like Anacostia area.
What are they doing? Dusting off the old Bullets arena, Baltimore Bullets, right?
No, I see CFG Bank Arena. I don't know if that's the
Yeah,
one,
I
but
think that is it. I'm not sure who played there previously, but I think it's more of just like a concert venue, and it can be both.
yeah,
But
I love that
it'll
for
be
you guys.
interesting. It'll be about an hour drive, so hopefully the Mystics fans are willing to go. But I think it might be more Fever fans than anything.
Yeah, something tells me. I mean, you guys just brought it up. Like I went to see Brooklyn take on the Warriors a few weeks ago, and I tell you, when Steph Curry came on to do his warm up, it's like the main. I even made the joke. I was like the main event just walked into the building like a prize fight because it like all cameras, eyes on him. I can only imagine that's the same for Caitlin Clark and in that arena, NBA arena where you have some pretty rabid fans for local teams. It was all blue and yellow. There was just Golden State everywhere. I'm pretty sure people were booing when the Nets had the ball and they were up, and it's just like, wow, oh, you guys are supposed to be home. So I feel bad. I not feel bad. Like I feel for you. I'm like that's going to be a home game for the Fever, unfortunately. So good luck on that one for sure.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the case. But yeah, I'm a huge Steph Curry fan too, and it's just fun to watch every time they're on the court. So I think it's
Yeah.
cool.
No, it's good for the game. Although I'm a little scared of Caitlin Clark this year. I don't know if you saw. I don't know where Big D just went. His camera just went off, but I don't know if you saw the image of Caitlin Clark. I think it was at some game. It might have been a Pacers game where she was like all ripped and jacked and everything. Like she had like she was flexing and like it was just like a bicep that was made for Arnold Schwarzenegger popped out. I was like, oh, okay. So good luck roughing her around this year.
Yeah, bulking up a little bit. That's probably good for her.
Yeah.
got
Hey,
tired of getting
Big D.
knocked on her butt. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I was looking up CFG. It is, I think it will be there. It's 14,000 plus arena, but then they might not like me snooping around, so I got cut off.
Big D is stuck in the Stone Ages with just everything in life, including
Oh
his technology. So
wow,
here we are.
real
Let's
nice.
let's transition. We've talked a lot about obviously WNBA now. First, before we get like technical questions, because I used to represent Alex McLean, who used to be the player development coach for the Wizards. So similar building, same ownership group. Do you know Jamil Ludd at all?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes, I
love
know
that guy.
Jamil.
He's
Yeah,
I talked to him. He's special shout out to him. He does a lot of the rebounding and like work with the team on the floor itself. So I love that guy. I figured I knew someone in the organization. He does everything. I think he works out
no,
with the Wizards. He does stuff with the Go-Go, and I see him all the time with the Mystics. And big fan of his. So next time you see him,
yeah.
tell him I said
Special
hi.
shout out to Jamil. That guy loves his job more than
Yep.
anything, and I think that's just awesome. Like whether it's rebounding or cleaning the floor, like he loves his job, and I think it's awesome
Yeah.
to uh to see that, and it's cool to have a relationship with him.
Yeah, no, great guy. And if you ever get to watch a game, Mystics or otherwise, just look for the guy rebound. Like you said, just loving his job in rebounding or cleaning up. I love the guy. I met him first when I went down there when a few of the players, I used to represent players, I now represent coaches. But when I was representing players, a few of them were training with Alex, and Jamil was there helping them with players. Again, rebounding, doing everything he wanted to be a part of the game. And I got to talking to him. We shared info, and it's been a while since I reached out. So you just made me think that as we were talking all about this, I had to ask, and now I'm like, I got to reach out to him after this because love the guy. He's great, great human being, and great for the game of basketball. So definitely special shout
Definitely.
out. But you're getting ready for draft time. Like I said, we're gonna stay away from particular players going in there. We kind of talked about what you look for already. How often are you guys getting together during this time and evaluating, or is it kind of just each their own, everybody evaluates, and then you guys come together collectively to discuss what each of you have seen throughout the tournament, throughout the season, leading up to, of course, the draft day itself?
Yeah, so we have a new coaching staff and front office staff this year. So everything's been a little new for them and for me as well. Um, but yeah, we have our, our platforms and systems that we evaluate on, and then we meet, once, twice a week to talk about, how we feel about different players and what we're looking for, and just kind of weekly updates, I guess I should say. But yeah, pretty often, and I think in the next few weeks we'll have further meetings to, start mapping out what it'll look like in the draft and kind of going from there.
Nice. I kind of
Caleb, the
go ahead.
Mystics started off 0-14 last year, and I think there were some injured players, but then you guys had a great run toward the end of the year, like basically 500 ball, made a little bit of noise around the playoff entry piece, fell a little bit short, but you feel like there's a particular player type or one or two players away. What does that construct look for you guys?
Yeah, well, obviously now we know we're focused a little more towards a rebuild because we've traded a couple different players and didn't sign a few free agents. But
Mhm.
yeah, like you mentioned, last year we did do a great job of getting back to that point where we felt like we were playing at a high level, but still eventually fell short of the playoffs. Um, but yeah, I still think now, if we could, land, which every team can say a little bit, if you had this one really good player, then our team would be really good.
Yeah.
But I think we do have a great group of people and, good group of players. So it's really just about putting it all together and continue to focus on that as well.
How are you guys
Caleb,
feeling? Obviously, the draft gets a little shakeup this year, right? Is it this year the Valkyrie are involved?
Yep, so they had their expansion draft already, and then they'll have the fifth pick, so like right after the lottery in the
Right,
draft as well.
right. I forgot that was fifth pick, and you guys, I think you guys are 3-4. So I'm hoping that you guys, obviously, you can't comment, and I'm not asking, but Aaliyah Edwards, Paige Becker's combo. Let's see that back together. Let's let her fall for whatever reason. Not that I'm hoping that Paige Becker's falls, but like it'd be nice just to see the UConn connection in Washington.
Yeah,
Um,
I would love to see the UConn connection.
yeah, absolutely. I guess. I don't have any more questions on WNBA. I think I have one left, but I want to kick it to Big D first if he has anything specific you want to ask.
yeah, Caleb, I'm just looking for a little clarity because I might have missed it early in what you said, but the role you had last year with the Mystics, is it the same role this year? Because I know you're under a new coaching staff.
Yeah, I would say same role, but just expanded a little more. So, even into last year, I got to do a little more scouting and a little more player development. So, what that looks like is basically I had one team last year, so every time when we played them, I had the scouting report to, present to the team like this is going to be our defensive coverages. This is, how we can do a good job scoring offensively. And then the player development piece is basically I worked with one player last year that was Jade Melbourne, so she was in her second year, um, and that was a really enjoyable piece of it as well because you get to see a player really develop and get better. And then the last piece I guess of my role was the live coding. So that's during the game. I'm still live coding, which basically just means clipping up offense and defense and tracking our plays and how efficient we are from those plays that we're running. And just tracking who's scoring at what time and stuff like that.
You ever
So a
get
little player development, did that cause a coaching bug? Do you have that little bug to maybe continue to develop your own skill sets for that?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that the most because ultimately you get to build a really good relationship with different players, and that's the most enjoyable piece. And then when you have that trust from a player, then you can really focus and get better because you can tell them the honest truth. This is what you need to do to get better, and that's what I really enjoyed.
Nice.
I know a great guy that represents coaches if you ever want to go deeper into that and help build your connection. Great guy. He's hardworking. But anyway, um,
He's all
so
right.
as the season goes along, obviously you guys draft in what is it, February, right? No, April 14th. February just passed, Nick. Duh. So April 14th, you have draft day. Season runs through October. Obviously, you said you played basketball in high school. Are there any other sports that you're interested in as well? Being an SEC
I
guy?
also played soccer, and
Okay.
I am a soccer fan as well. I follow the Premier League a little bit.
Okay.
But honestly, I like all sports. I'm a big NFL fan. I'm a big NBA fan, obviously as well. Which I have enjoyed, having an off season this year because in the past I was always working with Georgia, so I would watch some college basketball, but not to the extent I've had the chance to this year, and same for the NBA as well.
So that actually tees up my question perfectly. It's almost like we scripted it, which we didn't, obviously. But you just said you have your season kind of runs through college football, being that you're a Georgia guy. Do you get to watch much of it? And how upset are you going to be when Texas wins it all this year? Just asking.
Wow.
Well, we did a good job welcoming Texas to the SEC last year, so I was happy with that from the Dogs. But yeah, I think last year I missed our home opener because we were still playing. So I missed like the Clemson game, but for the most part, I still get to watch a lot, and it's like after our season. So yeah, definitely a big college football fan as well.
Kind of figured it, and then Big D's, brown nosing with Uga in the background today, so I chose to keep it like unbiased, but it's okay. That's why we're here. We're gonna ask you to be actually biased one last time. We're gonna now jump to our segment, where we spin the wheel. Oh wow, Big D's failing all over the place. We spin the wheel.
Oh, wheel.
This guy, he can't stick with the bit to save his life, Caleb. But we're gonna spin the wheel. As I explained to you before, we got kicked off here. If I can get rid of this ad, what we'll call it? It's gonna spin. We're gonna actually open up the chat here because we're gonna spin the wheel. In the chat, you have to write which player you think has worn that number, or is the best player to wear that number, and that will take turns because obviously on Zoom when we talk over each other and we put it on whatchamacallit, Spotify, it'll get all jumbled. So this is the cleanest way to do it. Men, best of luck to you. Quickest hands win this one. I'm at a distinct disadvantage because I have to spin this wheel and then hop back over to our thing. So let's get rid of this.
Hurry up and spin your wheel, would you? Jeez.
Well, I got to skip the ad first. No free advertisements. So here we go. Spinning the wheel. Wheel, wheel, wheel.
It's a very choppy spin. Oh boy.
I'm happy that it's 29 because it's tough. All right, so you guys see the number is 29. Ooh. First one to type in here. Ooh, that's a good one. Oh, man, 29. 29 is tough.
Yeah, I think I might have it.
You might. 29.
Eric Dickerson, baby. That's my pick.
I mean, you could speak on it, yeah, because Caleb and I are still struggling.
I was definitely thinking more basketball, and you've opened my eyes now. So now I think I'll be ready next round.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully this isn't the only time we have you on. We could definitely schedule another time, but you have Eric Dickerson. I honestly can't think of one.
Yeah, that one just jumped to my mind for some reason. Usually, Caleb, I'm like, waiting to, unless it's some guy that I grew up being a fan of. But Eric Dickerson jumped to my mind. I mean, he's a phenomenal running back out of SMU back in the day. Colts and Rams, and it's hard not to argue for the guy who still holds the all-time, or I should say the single-season rushing record that for some reason Saquon Barkley wasn't allowed to break this year.
That was impressive work.
That's wild. I still can't find one. I can't think of one, and now I can't find one. This is crazy. Is Eric Dickerson the only person in history that wore 29?
No, come on.
Not a common number.
Wow.
Ranker. I'm going to Ranker. Are you on there?
No, I mean I was, but I went searching because some of those numbers I'm not counting. I saw Rod Carew on there. Rod Carew did not wear 29 at any time in his actual professional career. They said Catfish Hunter, which I was willing to go with, but he also did not wear 29 in his professional career.
Caleb, what was John Smoltz when he was a Brave? Caleb, you know?
I can't remember what number he was now.
I don't think he was. I think he was in the 30s. I saw that too. Oh, man.
You might have to take one of these. You can't sit. Adrian Beltre?
That's what I just saw. Adrian Beltre.
There you go.
Oh shoot, John Smoltz did wear 29. According to
All right, well,
baseballreference.com, he wore 29. Yeah. Shoot.
Caleb, type it in real quick.
Yeah, that would have been a good one.
You can
Type it
have
in.
John Smoltz if you want him. I'm gonna go with Eric Berry. There you go. I'll go with Eric Berry, safety for. I lost this one, hands down. I lost this one. Eric Berry.
Nick, you're not going to go Catfish Hunter?
Catfish Hunter didn't wear 29. I just looked it up on baseballreference.com. Did not wear 29.
All right.
Right.
Don't yell at me. I'm just looking at reference.
So Caleb, you want to
This is what happens.
go ahead, Big D. What were we saying?
I was going to say this is what happens when he loses, Nick. Caleb, when Nick loses, he gets all fired up.
Not fired up.
I
There's
mean,
just no answer. Like you two win this one. It's up to you guys, and we could use my vote to break the tie here if you want. But go ahead, Caleb. Give your pitch for John Smoltz on why he's the better.
I mean, John Smoltz, the Braves in the 90s, just very elite. And for him to be a starting pitcher and then transition to closer, I think it's a good pitch for him.
And he had a phenomenal career at both. Both, yeah.
Yeah, what hurts
Not
John
to mention,
for me is that he was a Red Sox towards the end of his career. So like that makes it hard for me to vote for. I also don't want to vote for Big D. So like there's this level of like who don't I want to win more? And like Caleb is a guest. Oh boy.
well, if it helps you any, I think I would probably acquiesce to Caleb only because Smoltzy's also a World Series champion a couple of times, where Eric Dickerson, while he was a great player and has all kinds of accolades and especially individual accolades, never propelled the team to the Super Bowl. So
I did Google athletes wearing number 29, Eric Dickerson, first one to pop up. So he does have that going for him.
Yeah, there was a hockey player on there, but I mean, I will watch hockey live, love it live. Playoffs are electric. As Big D likes to say, puck hockey. There's no like I don't know players that well. So when it comes to this, I know one guy, and I think we already used the number 30 already out there, and that's a movie Martin Brodeur. But yeah, I can't think of one. So yeah, no, I guess ultimately I'll have to go with John Smoltz because the Yankees own him anyway. So yeah, we'll just stick with that.
Yeah.
But no, Caleb, but we want, obviously thank you for coming on. This has been great. Obviously, now you can get the flow of things. Next time we'll have to go down to DC to do one live with you. That way it's a little bit easier. Zooms are a little tough because sometimes when you try to like ask a question, it gets like muddied in there as somebody else is trying to speak. So thank you. We appreciate, this time during March, during your recruiting time or video time to come on and speak with us.
Yeah, and I was going to say you guys can meet me over in Baltimore as well because that'll be an option this summer. But no, thank you guys for having me. I think it's awesome just to chop it up and talk ball. It's been a great time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caleb, you get your dad to come up to Baltimore. We'll do a father-son combo.
Sounds like a great idea.
While watching
All right.
Caitlin Clark, it sounds like. All right. Well, thanks again, Caleb, and we'll catch you later. And again, more than happy to have you back on anytime. And next time, like you said, you'll be better prepared for the wheel, and Big D won't have the only guy that wears a singular number. So
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Caleb. Thanks. Bye.